For a long time, I've been into music called jungle, drum and bass, and that music came from kind of breakbeat music. And breakbeat music really came, it's kind of interesting. In 1969, a group called the Winstons put out a record. It was a two A and B side record, one song on each side. You guys have no idea what that is probably. But it used to be really big for bands to release a record. It had one song and you could flip it over and play the other song on a record player, right? So the B side, so there was an A side and a B side. And the A side was like their tune that they really wanted everybody to hear pretty much. The B side was kind of their second choice. The B side of this record was called Amen Brother. And Amen Brother, for some reason, got really popular. In the middle of the song, there's a 4-measure drum break where all the other instruments stop and the drums just going right? And it's kind of interesting. It was about probably 10 or 15 years from that recording that DJs and other people started to take that drum break because they could take just the drums and they could spin it over here and kind of keep looping it back and then put things on top of it and create a new song out of that drum beat. They could slow it down, they could speed it up. And one thing they would do is go from their 33 setting on the record player to 78, which would speed it up quite a bit. And so as time kind of progressed and electronics came into play, computers, samplers, things like that, people started taking that beat and they sampled each little beat. So the bass drum, the snare drum, the cymbals, ding, and then they would kind of reorganize it in different ways and use those same drum sounds to come up with all kinds of different new beats. And it was really easy with computers, right? They could just press play and it would go really fast. So let me play that brief little clip for you, and you can kind of hear what that was and where this comes from. Yeah, so there's a little bit leading up to it. Time, and notice that the beat changes just a little bit in the third bar towards the end. He kind of drops the beat a little bit and syncopates it. So that's Amen Brother, and everybody sampled that. And so by the time you kind of get to the electronic era, this group called Plug was one of the groups that took this song. Let me fast forward here a little bit. And you can hear how they kind of, through like samplers and effects, reorganized this drum beat. Do you like that better? Yeah. Here's somebody who said I like that better. That's very different. Yeah, they could do all kinds of stuff. So let me real quick just play the Winston's version of that, which is a pretty straightforward, like almost every drummer, like almost every student I teach and every drummer I hear plays some version of this. So that's kind of the slower version of it. They sped it up a little bit. Okay. Let me get my snare drum up a little bit from Alex playing. Back to normal height here. And let me see. So, at any rate, like 5 or 6 years ago, I was listening to this group Plug and their album Drum and Bass for Papa. And I was like, this is really cool music. I had never heard of the Winstons at that time. And I started thinking to myself, is there a way I can recreate this on drum set? They took this other thing, they sped it up, they chopped it up, they put all these electronics in there, and it's kind of easy in a way to do it. And so I decided to figure out if I could go back, if I could play that fast, if I could kind of have that stuff going. And so I did a lot of practice and a lot of listening. And I found that like some things you can do pretty well, other things are doable. because it's a computer, right? It can do anything. But then I found that some other people are doing that too. So let me show you a few things I use to kind of recreate some of that stuff. Well, you saw these, right? What do these look like? CDs, right? Okay. So I actually used a CD template to cut these out. It was a big cymbal, and it wasn't a very good cymbal. So I cut it up into littler cymbals that I can do things like spinning on the ground that you saw. Okay. A few other things I like to do with these. And as I told the last group, I drop about half of these. So, but I hit it while I spin it, like that, and I recatch it. Yeah. So that's another way that I use them. The other way is I'll take something like this, and I'll just put it on my snare drum. And when I go to play, I'll use it, to mute the snare drum a little bit, instead of, okay, so it calms it down a little. But then I can also hit either that or the drum and that at the same time, and get kind of an electronic sound. Okay, so it gives me like another voice when I'm playing drums. Here's another version of that. I don't know if you guys can see this very well. This is an old, really thin splash cymbal that's all cracked up. Most people would have thrown it away. I probably should have thrown it away, but I didn't throw it away. And I decided to take a small bungee cord, put it on my drum, and put it on my snare drum, and do the same thing. Right? Does that sound kind of electronic to you, like something you wouldn't normally hear? When I put a microphone on it, I can get some really interesting sounds. Here's another one. This was a very cheap piece of junk cymbal, and I cut the whole center of it out. The center used to look kind of like this bell, came up. And so I cut that out, and I can put this on either of my snare drums. I use 2 snare drums for this setup. And it's a similar thing. It mutes the drum down quite a bit, so it's very, very quiet instead of, right? And I'll use it in a similar way. What do you think? Kind of crazy? So, I don't see too many drummers that use things like that. It's a little bit unique. So another thing that I do to get yet another sound. I was talking to the group the last group that came in for the 4th graders about what I call stochastic sounds. The stochastic sounds are background sounds that aren't really intentional, that are kind of all around us. So as we're in here, as I'm playing drums, as you guys are sitting there listening, you might notice that there's kids making noise out there. There's someone playing on the rocks. There's some birds flying around that make some flapping noises, maybe a little bit of wind noise. When I hit drums, you don't just get that drum sound, you get other sounds. Okay, so I could hear from up here, I could hear these cymbals, because I hit them really hard, I could hear those jingle a little bit. Right? I could also hear my snares vibrate a little bit when I hit that. Those are called stochastic sounds. So, and I think I showed our class this a long time ago when I first came here. I took some sticks and I cut holes in them and I put these little cymbals in them. Does anybody know what these are called? Alex, what do you think? Lizzie, do you know what those are called? No, but you can kind of play them like that. Gabe, what do you think?
I'm not sure if kind of symbols these are. I don't think they are, but I think they're called crash cymbals.
Oh, crash cymbals. What do you think?
Are they the little things on a tambourine?
They're the little things on a tambourine. What do you call those? Okay, mostly people call them jingles or something. The actual name is zills, Z-I-L-L-S. So I put those in here so that every time I hit something, I get a second sound. Okay, so I get that stochastic sound, which my, playing a little bit more of a different feel than you would normally hear from drum set, which is what I'm kind of trying to approximate when I play drum and bass and jungle, things like that. Okay, before I play a little bit more, there's a couple other things I do on this particular drum set that my other drum sets have, like toms, crash cymbal, ride cymbal, probably like Alex is a little more used to. This has just lots of cymbals, 2 snare drums. I actually have 3 hi-hats. And hi-hats are 2 cymbals kind of close together to kind of create a muted sound. So that gives me different color choices when I'm playing just these really fast beats. I also have cymbals above other cymbals, right? And that kind of allows me to, this up a little, to play in between 2 cymbals. So every hit that I make, I get 2 hits, and so it's like twice as fast, which is kind of nice. Same over here with the 2 hi-hats. Okay, and then one other thing that you'll see that I'm using when I play is that instead of just a hi-hat sound, sometimes I want to get an auxiliary sound with that, and so I hit the hi-hat and the snare drum at the same time. Like that. Prue, do you have a question? Put your hand up.
Yeah, can you release the, exactly, no, never mind, I didn't answer.
Yeah, so this one hi-hat, I have a pedal over here with my foot, it's the only one. This one doesn't and this one doesn't, and I can raise it up or down, which means I can get different sounds. Cymbal sound. Good. I'm going to wear earplugs. I always practice with earplugs, and so it's kind of weird to play without them. If it's loud for you guys, you can always just press on your ears, and it'll be nice and quiet. Okay. So listen for some of those things we talked about, some of the different sounds and things like that. fills and 2 beaters on the bass drum, and I don't. I have a video on YouTube of this kind of music that I have a lot of views on, and people ask that because it's really fast. Someone in the last group commented that when I'm playing, it looks like it's like I'm sped up, the movements and things. And that is also on YouTube. People think that I recorded it and then sped it up and put it on there. But this is real life. Controlled and fast, yeah. One thing, just practice. Just like practice to get faster and faster, lots of different rudiments, and playing always with the metronome. That's about it. So that question comes up a lot. No, I don't. I currently probably practice 3 to 4 times a week. When I was in college and playing, I practiced a lot, like probably anywhere from 4 to 6 or 7 hours a day. And not just drum set, other percussion instruments and things like that. Now I probably practice anywhere from 1 to maybe 2 or 3 hours a day. In the summertime, I get a little more practice in, and almost every day. But it just depends. It kind of goes in waves. And I always have band rehearsal each week, and then gigs come up, so that kind of keeps me up to speed some. Oh, I've been playing. So I started playing when I was like 9 or 10. I got my first drum set when I was about 10. And my parents were not musicians. They weren't really into music. So I had to buy my first drum set. It was $300. I saved all my birthday, Christmas money, and I had this terrible drum set that was falling apart. And I had that drum set until I was like 18 years old when I could afford another one. So I never got lessons. I had to teach myself.